tweet, and I quote, "The Westbrook disrespect and vitriol is still corny, regardless of how you feel about last season. Some people got to get a life, man," end quote. He also talked about defending the trade and also defending Russell Westbrook. "Can't wait for him to go off this season," quote, end quote, Harry.
Wow. I will say this. When the Lakers made the move, the first thing I thought about was, okay, Darvin Ham and everyone in that organization understood that we were lacking something last year. It was a mindset, it was defense, and a tone setter. When you look at a guy like Patrick Beverley, he is all three of those things. He has a certain mindset. When you look at him on the defensive end, he's a tone setter, right? He gets under the opposing team's skin. And the defense of the Los Angeles Lakers last year was terrible. It wasn't good.
Right.
So bringing him over, I can see exactly why they made this move. Now, the history between him, Patrick Beverley, that is, and Russell Westbrook, I understand their history. But when you're professionals and now these guys are teammates, you figure out ways to make it work. It's going to work, especially if both guys are still there. They're going to figure out how it can work. Trust me. You let go all the other stuff because here the common goal is to win a championship.
Right.
And I know Russell Westbrook wants to win that because he doesn't have one. I know Patrick Beverley wants to win that because he's on video saying, and I can't remember who posted it yesterday, saying, "I want to win. I just want to win.
I want
winners."
winners.
I can hear the passion in his voice that he really truly wants to win, and he's willing to do any and everything to help the Lakers get there. And he even went out to say is that if I'm on the Lakers next year, we're going to the playoffs, we're going to the Western Conference Finals. He went out and said it in the interview that he did.
I love the fact that LeBron James responded to that tweet defending his teammate in Russell Westbrook, because that's what the Lakers need, because I'm sure he is sick and tired of it. Russell Westbrook's sick and tired of it, that whole nine. But I'm going to go back to your point in terms of being professional, and I'll never forget being a long-suffering New York Knicks fan. I remember the New York Knicks acquired Xavier McDaniel in the 90s, and he and Charles Oakley the year before, they had one of the best basketball fights ever, where he's playing for Seattle, Oakley's playing for the Knicks, loose ball out of bounds, the ball's at their feet, they look at each other, and the next thing's like somebody said, ding, and they got to fighting, and people did not want to break it. It was so good. And people wondered, man, how is that going to work with Xavier McDaniel and Charles Oakley, who have been enemies for more than a minute? They could not have been better teammates for each other because they never had to question the mentality of somebody that they couldn't stand, that they had to play with, and they were the best of teammates. I'm not saying that's going to be the case of Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook being teammates. But no matter what you think of both of these guys and what they appear to be on the surface, they've never been bad teammates. You may not like the way they've gone about their business, especially Russell Westbrook, but not a lot of people other than Kevin Durant will say that he's been a bad teammate. No one has said that about Patrick Beverley. I guarantee anywhere he's been that when they moved on from him, there were a lot of guys saying, man, I'd rather play with that guy than play against that guy. So my concern is not that, if these two are going to get along. My concern with the Lakers is, what is this going to look like when you're trying to mix these pieces together? And to me, Harry, you're still miles and miles away from not just winning an NBA championship, but maybe even being a top 5, top 6 team in a loaded Western Conference.
Yeah, and I'm worried about in crunch time when you need defensive stops and you have both of these guys on the floor at the same time, because they can be dominant defensively when they put their head down and their mind to it. But at the same time, you're on the offensive end, and let's just say Anthony Davis gets cold or LeBron James gets cold, and you have both of those guys on the floor. Who is going to do the scoring? Who's going to be the guy that you're able to count on? Because I'm going to sit up here and say right now, I'm not going to say I'm counting on Patrick Beverley to give me 15 to 16 points a night every time he's going out there. No, I know what his role is. And then Russell Westbrook, we've seen his struggles last year, but can he be a better offensive threat for the Lakers coming into this season? So those are the questions that are probably going to arise. But from a defensive perspective, I love the fact that Darvin Ham is saying, you know what, I'm going to hold everybody accountable. We're going to buy in. I'm going to bring in a guy that I know is a tone setter. And that's what this team needs. As good as LeBron is, We understand LeBron has a lot of weight on his shoulders. You need AD to be healthy. They need a guy like Patrick Beverley. When I think about a guy like Patrick Beverley, I think like a guy like Draymond Green, who was the engine for the Golden State Warriors. And we see when he's playing at the level that he's able to play at, and he's getting into the opposing team's head and their mental, but also rebounding and orchestrating the offense, we seen how good Golden State can be. Now, if Patrick Beverley can go out there and get underneath an opposing team's skin and get some steals and get the Los Angeles crowd going, throwing his hands up. You know the little antics he love to do.
Absolutely.
Be that pet bull that he is. I think it could work out well for the Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm going to throw teams at you in terms of what the Lakers have to deal with in the Western Conference. By the way, Harry Douglas, Freddie Coleman together, and for the guys on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. You got the Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Hold on real quick, Freddie.
Okay.
When you say Denver, Jamal Murray's coming back. Michael Porter Jr. is coming back.
Come on now.
Nikola Jokic. All right, keep going.
All right. Minnesota Timberwolves.
Ooh, they just made a trade.
Right.
Rudy Gobert.
Okay. With Edwards and also Karl Anthony Towns.
Yes. The thing for them that I'm worried about is D'Angelo Russell. Can he be the guy that understands in certain situations? Because I didn't see it in the playoffs.
Right. Well, give Memphis a lot of credit for that, too.
Yeah. When it's time to slow the basketball down and control the tempo, you have to do that from a point guard's perspective.
Right.
You just can't be 100 miles per hour every time. Even if that's how you play, it comes a certain juncture in the game where you got to be like, you know what? I need to slow things down and get us into the right play and get the ball to the right people.
Okay. In the Lakers' own division of the Pacific, Golden State.
Ooh.
Let's just move on. Let's not even talk about that. Clippers. Let's move on. Not even
Best
talk about
roster
that.
in the NBA.
Right. Potentially. Phoenix Suns. That's in their own division. Okay.
Ooh.
Then you go to the Southwest Division. Dallas, who added Christian Wood to go Luka Doncic. Memphis Grizzlies. They're definitely on. They're not on the.
We want all the smoke.
Right. Yeah.
We want all the smoke.
Yeah. They're not on the come up. They've arrived.
Yep.
New Orleans Pelicans with Zion Williamson coming back. That's 8 teams I mentioned right now that right now better than the Lakers.
With New Orleans, because a lot of people better take notice and a lot of people better watch out. I love their draft pick in Dyson Daniels, a guy with size, can play the point guard position, can knock down open shots, can also defend multiple positions. But Zion's back to go along with C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram and Valanciunas. And then I can't remember the young kid's name right now, who I think at some point is going to win Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, the National Basketball Association. I can't remember his name right now. But you think about all those guys. You talk about a Jose Alvarado who was getting underneath people's skin like we see Patrick Beverley do. He played a major role in Chris Paul being frustrated in that series going to 6 games. You add Zion to all that along with Dyson Daniels. Willie Green did a phenomenal job last year.
Sure
and I think
did.
the best thing they could have done was going out and trading for C.J. McCollum, a guy that can be a leader on and off the court. And here's the thing about Zion. He's coming back. You don't necessarily have to count on Zion being your number one guy. Even though in your head you're saying he's our number one guy, when you have a C.J. McCollum that can take offensive prowess off of him,
and Brandon
you have
Ingram.
a Brandon Ingram who can take offensive stress off of him as well. It's better for Zion to work in that space with those guys around him.
And I hope that Jackson Hayes will be able to keep his head on straight, because that's the guy that in modern basketball at 6'11", 220 pounds can guard the rim, can protect the rim, and has an ever-improving offensive game. If he can keep his head on straight, he's had a couple of incidents off the court due to immaturity. If he can maximize that, then you got a long front line, a long backcourt. That's what the Lakers will have to deal with. I like the fact that LeBron is supporting his teammate, and you're right about Patrick Beverley bringing that to the table. That's not the issue. The issue for the Lakers is those teams we mentioned in the Western Conference that you got to try to even be in the middle of to think you're going to contend for a championship and try to get to the NBA Finals or get back to the NBA Finals.
And I got it now, Freddie.
What's that?
It was Herbert Jones who I was missing.
Yeah.
That's who I'm
From
talking
Alabama,
about.
yes.
Yep.
Herb Jones.
Herbert
yes.
Jones. Yep.
Herb Jones, yeah, believe me. And that's another guy. He's a taller version of Patrick Beverley, but he can shoot the ball a lot better than Patrick Beverley. But that long guy, I'll never get in the playoffs against the Phoenix Suns where Chris Paul extended his hand and Herbert Jones said, I don't care who you are. I don't need you to help me up. I'm good. I'm good.
That mindset.
And that mindset will work, and that's what the Lakers have to deal with in addition to having Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook. And if that's going to match up with those two guys who were enemies before, they now became teammates. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max with Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas, brought to you by Boost Mobile, a proud sponsor of the 2022 Department of Defense Warrior Games. With Boost Mobile, feel the power of more